I just can't do it anymore. I cannot do Blender anymore. There comes a time when you are doing the maths on how expensive your new PC is going to be just so that Blender doesn't crash. And I just had enough. In this video, we're going to be talking about Unreal Engine. Is it going to be our savior against the tyranny of slow Blender and its GPU crashes and all that stuff? It's something that a lot of people I think have been thinking about, and as I've been talking about it on Facebook, people have been sort of curious. Should I jump? Should I switch? But what's the differences? And that's what I want to address in this video. I've been for the past week I've been doing a deep dive, a really stressful deep dive into Unreal, using it professionally, actually throwing myself in at the deep end, and I've managed to come up with some pretty good stuff that I can't really show, unfortunately, because it's under NDA. But like, I want to talk about what that transition has been like, and is it worth it for you? And I'm, like I say, it's only been a few days. I'm not an expert at all, but it's been enough for me to get the gist, and I've been pregnant with these thoughts in this video for a while now, and I really want to get it out there. I feel like it is my mission to get people away from Blender because it is showing no signs, or very little signs, of getting fast enough. I think in Blender 4, maybe even 3.6 beta, there was some increase in speed when you go to render, not the actual render itself, but when you send it to render. I'm not technical. Other than that, it's just too slow. I'm sick of being in towards the end of a scene and the client saying, can we add some of this and can we add some of that, and then I hit F12 and my whole PC will freeze for like sometimes up to an hour, and I have to consider whether I'm going to be able to hand in my work at the end of the day or have to shut down my PC and troubleshoot, strip away all the 4K textures until then there's only 2K textures, and then even that, sometimes if there's a lot of textures, that's still not good. And it around about 10 million polygons, it starts to, and then at 12, and then before you know it, you're just having to cut and cut and cut. And fair enough, maybe you can optimize your scene, but do you really want to have to? That's where Unreal comes in. So, pros and cons. Okay. Sorry if this is a bit rambly, but I don't really have too much time to put together a nicely sliced video. I'm very busy with work, but I really, like I say, want to get this out there. Pros and cons. Okay, I started to make some notes as I was going through the process, the transition. What's coming up for me that is difficult, that you would want to know about as a concept artist? Because here's the thing. There's lots of resources out there, and it's all pretty much for gamers, people who are making games, people who are making like little short films on Unreal, and there's certain factors that they're considering that we don't really care about. We just want to make a still. So I made a little list of the main gripes. Now, do I go into that list and tell you all of the gripes and have you go, you know what? No, because I've got my Blender, I've got my work coming in, I'm doing my jobs. Do I really want to transition? But I would say that the upshot just about beats the cons. I think it's a shame that it's kind of at the knife edge. But anyway, I'm going to give it to you, and then I want lots of dialogue. Talk to me, tell me what you think, what your questions are. Let's get something going on, because I do feel like I think it's the future. I think Unreal Engine is the future. I think unless Blender pulls some trick out of its ass to make Eevee super fast and powerful, or cycles like 20 times faster, or some sort of way to fit more shit in the scenes, it's going to slowly fall away, because it's just, I'm sure you'll agree, too slow. I'm sick of the little blue circle every time I do anything in Blender. So here's the list of the cons to using Unreal. You already know the pros and cons to Blender, and again, do I talk about the pros first for Unreal? Let's do that after. Okay, so the Unreal cons. Sometimes when you start up your scene, or if it crashes and you have to restart, it compiles shaders, and I don't even know what it's doing, but those shaders are in the thousands, and you can be sitting there for 20 minutes while it does that. Comment below if you know why it does that and when it does it, because sometimes it doesn't and sometimes it does, and I don't know why. And it'll be sitting there going compiling shaders 5,000, 4,500, and you'll just be sitting there. That's really annoying. You can't just copy and paste assets. You sort of can. Okay, here's the deal with Unreal, is you have a project. It's different to Blender, whereby in Blender if you want to drag in something from your hard drive, you just kind of drag it into this actual node in the material shader setup. In Unreal you create a project, and everything in that project is where you drag your files and resources. From within that you can share things. So if you made a project within one theme, let's say a snowy theme, then you can make a new level. So your level is like your, I guess, your Blender file, and then you can sort of drag and drop between those. But if you make a new project that's now a desert, and you don't need those other resources, but you need maybe a few, maybe some rocks or maybe some things, you can't just go Control-C, Control-V like you can in Blender, which is one of the reasons why I switched to Blender. It was really useful. You can, sorry to labour this, but I think it's important because we often have tons of resources that we just need to reuse. So you can go into your other project and then migrate your files to the new project. Then you can Control-C and Control-V into your scene, because you could have, for example, a character that's made up of body, helmet, sword, something else, and you spend ages putting that all together, and then if you were to just drag those resources into your new project and drag them into the viewport, they wouldn't be aligned as a cohesive thing. In order to do that, you drag in your textures, your shaders, your meshes into the content browser. Then you Control-C, Control-V with your character, and it comes in pose just like you did in your old scene. And that's, to me, is a bit slow, but it sort of does it. You know, but it's a bit of a con, because I use that all the time in Blender. I'm sure we all do. We're always opening up old scenes and dragging stuff in because speed is key. So next one is Unreal. Randomly crashes on average about 3 times per day for me, and it can just go poof, and you have no idea when it's coming. And then of course, if it randomly crashes 3 times a day, this is, I will say, and this is a pretty big con, when I'm using Blender, if I crash, I'm not going to lose more than 3 minutes of work, because it's constantly auto-saving seamlessly, and the auto-save is just, you can really rely on it. In Unreal, you set your auto-save to every 5 minutes, but sometimes, because you have to save every change, in Blender you just save the scene. In Unreal you have to save shaders, anything else you've tweaked, the level, and you have to save everything, which, you know, there's a save all function, but you never know, you might have missed something, and then it'll crash, and then for the first time I lost about 20 minutes of work, and I don't even quite know how that was possible, if autosave was doing its job. And then sometimes it will say, this didn't shut down properly, do you want to restore it? You'll click yes, they'll say sorry, can't do it. So you're dealing with that kind of thing, those kind of crashes. Next up, it's not easy to set up custom windows like in Blender. So for me, maybe there's a way to do it, but I don't know, you can choose one viewport or split into 4, like 3D Studio Max style. But your camera viewport, it sits in the corner. Let me see if I can I do that? Can I show you here? So this is just a random little world. If I go to add cinematic, cine camera actor, so you see your little window here. Now you have to select that guy, otherwise, well, you can select it, pin it, and then it will stay there. Otherwise, if you don't pin it, it goes away. But it's like, yeah, You know, you can be working on your scene and at least you get a preview here. In order to make it bigger, you'd think, you know, that they would just make it so you could drag there, but you have to go into your project settings and do something, and it only goes so far. But really what you'd want to do is drag it up to there, like in Photoshop or Blender. And in Blender, like, you know, what I used to do in Blender is I would have a viewport here with my 3D scene that I can pan around and just low quality, just grey shaders or whatever, and I have my cycles render up top. So I would see and that would be my camera shot, so I would see exactly what I'm seeing in the shot, blah, 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 you know what I'm talking about. And it's not quite as fluid like that in Unreal, with the scenic cam just sitting there in the corner. Yeah, it's okay. And like I say, you can make it bigger, but then that then is encroaching on your actual viewport. So that's a downside. But like I say, for all I know, there could be a way to get this window to hide over there. I don't think so. Remember, because Unreal is a game engine, it's not really as such designed for concept artists. Materials can be set up to change in real time in the viewport by making master materials, but otherwise you have to click apply to see everything, to see every single change. So if this is an example of, like, this is a Megascans asset. This will change in real time because it's been set up by the folks at Quixel. So if we go into here, look at our shader, and bring that over here, it's been set up. Not all shaders look like this, because this, well, a lot of them do. This is a master material, so it's been sort of set up so that you can have like an albedo tint. And so if we look at the rock, hopefully it should go red now, and that's cool. But in order to do that, you have to do some messing around that I'm still not quite familiar with. Otherwise, your material will look like this, kinda-ish, with albedo and such. That's the actual, I don't know, it's one level down. It's like a child or an instance of that. I don't know, I'm still getting used to it. But if you were to just make a fresh material, let's just get a cube in there. Basic shapes, cube, Why is it not visible? There we go. And then we say, oh, okay, I want to make a new material. Just drag it on there. And then if we go into that material and we make a new color, and then well, it's already hasn't shown it, but we want to make that bright pink. I click OK. It's not showing it because we have to hit apply, wait. In fact, it didn't quite work, because I've got to put the value up. Okay, now click that. Now click apply, wait, and it's pink. Now we want it to be green. Click OK. See it here, but we don't see it there until we hit apply. So in order to do that, you have to make it a master material. Otherwise, you're having to rely on just this preview, which is sort of real time. So it's not as, you know, in Blender, basically what I'm saying is in Blender, instant, you know. And it can, like I say, it can be like that if you make a master material, which just takes a little bit more effort. It shouldn't really be a big deal once you get your head around it. It's just one of those things to consider. What else? Overall, you get the feeling that Unreal hates you and is trying every step of the way to foil your plans to do something even very straightforward. That's the feeling that I get. In fact, I had not a nightmare last night, but after playing with Unreal for a while, I was dreaming that I was organizing boxes and it was just messy, and it's because I'd spent time in Unreal just trying to follow a tutorial that was just should have been really simple, and it was just really difficult. It was like, click this, go in there, then go into here and make this. Now we're going to go back in and make this thing. And all I wanted to do was to make this object here blend into the object, you know, the layer underneath it, to do some texture blending. And in the end, it didn't even work because there's 30 steps. And of course, if you're following a tutorial with too many steps, you're guaranteed that one of those steps is not going to work, and you're going to have to abandon the whole tutorial. So overall, it feels like, God, why isn't this easier? Even textures, like you plug in a normal texture, and then you'd think that you would just change the amount, but no, you have to plug in a flatten normals node in front of it to flatten the normals. And if you go, and then if you want to invert them, you have to go to more than 1.0. It's just really like weird, and you'll get used to it, but it's just, nothing seems quite straightforward. And then the other con is that when you're trying to learn it, you're Googling, you're looking on YouTube, and it's, you're coming up with like 3 videos, that none of which is telling you what you want to know. Which is why I want to make my own Blender to Unreal tutorial. I should have said that at the start, really. That's my plan, is to do a Blender to Unreal tutorial for concept artists, by myself, the concept artist, because it's really difficult to just pick it all up. To this day, like, can you see this texture here? This cloud, I use this all the time in my Blender files to create like cast shadows, right? It took me ages just to get the cloud just to look like a transparent cloud, with lots of going on Unreal Reddit, the forums and everything, and finally I got it to look like a cloud. No shadows, and I still don't know why, and it's been days of trying to figure out how to get this to cast shadows. Just a straightforward transparent material, that's it, and it won't cast shadows, even if you tick cast ray trace shadows. It doesn't do anything. Two-sided, apply. And I don't know, I mean, somebody said you have to make a sprite and choose the shadow things in the sprite, and just not doing it. And I think that's basically the cons, okay? So let's just go over them again quickly. Compiling shaders, why does it do that? It takes a long time. You can't just copy and paste assets very easily, although there is a way to do it. If you're in the same project, there's a special plugin. Again, I hope I'm not putting people off of things that could be actually easily solved, and it's called Actor Palette. And you can bring up a little window here, and where you have all of your assets, and you can literally just drag them in. So, but it has to be within the same project. So that's ideal if you're working in multiple scenes within the same theme. Say it's medieval or something like that. So there's that. Randomly crashes, like I say, about 3 times a day. Whereas Blender wasn't really doing that for me. Not easy to set up custom windows so much. So you're not going to be able to have this nice, like, say if you're doing a portrait render, you're not going to necessarily be. I think you can set up 2 window system, but you're not going to be able to really nicely position them, I don't think. Maybe you can. Like I say, I'm new to this. Materials, yeah, you have to do a bit of messing around with materials. I guess the good thing is with materials, once you have the basic gist of albedo, normal, roughness, that's the majority of it anyway. And overall, you get the feeling that Unreal hates you and is trying to kill you slowly. However, I feel like once you get the basics down, and this is one of my conclusions, once you get the basics down, the materials, camera work, rendering, again, rendering is not just a case of hitting F12, you really have to set things up in the sequencer, take lots of notes, that's what I did. But yeah, it's not straightforward. It's sort of, you're working against it. But like I said, once you get everything down, you should just get into your stride. It's just not going to be as easy on you as other software. And then before I put you off too much, the pros. The pros, there is pretty much, I would say, one major pro that I can think of. But it's a huge pro, and that is the speed is breathtaking, and the power is like hair blowing. Like I worked on a scene recently. I don't even know what the statistics were in that scene, but if I was to guess, I would say it was probably 3 times heavier than the heaviest Blender scene I've ever worked on, and it was just buttery smooth. I can move around in real time. Even Eevee doesn't feel like real time, it feels like about a second away from it when it's heavy. And you can just, and this is the other thing, which is again with speed, you can go into your Quixel bridge, everything's free, another huge plus. You grab an asset, just anything, you don't have to, like in Blender, think about this, remember Blender, you have to click it, you have to download it, you have to import it, then it will give you an error because you need to restart Blender. We've all had that. Well, I hope it's not just me anyway, but I get this constantly. It gives me an error because I have to restart Blender, and restarting Blender takes a while, especially if the scene is heavy. Then you click your export again, it goes into your scene, and you have to mess around with the nodes to get it to really look good. Right, so we all know that. This is Bridge, this is Unreal. Bam, we're done. Now you might think, yeah, but it doesn't look good. Wait. Damn, perfect. That's just that. That's just it. Done. You don't have to do anything. It's just incredible. So do it again. Let's find something else. This. Look. Wait a second. So as you're making your scene, you can just be like, I mean, so if you're clever, you'll notice that this is my local downloads. So you could say, well, yeah, but you've already got them on your hard drive, so it's quicker. But it's not much different. So I've never seen this collapse before. Okay, so let's just go home, 3D assets, find something that I don't have, building, balcony, and just drag that in. I don't have this downloaded, and you'll see, bam! So it comes in with like a really low level of detail, and then slowly, progressively, so you at least know where to put it. And like that cool thing about Unreal that you don't get with Blender, which is that everything is sticking to that I don't know, XY plane. So when you're dragging it in, you don't have to mess around with all three coordinates. You just drag it in, position it on the, and it sticks to the snaps to the ground plane. So that's really cool. And yeah, I can't emphasize like how fast, fluid, epic. You can have mountain ranges with millions and millions of polygons, and cloud, and the sun, and the sunlight system. The way the sunlight feels. Let me see. I don't know. This is like a default level. I'm not sure how good the default lighting is set up. But if I rotate the sun, now that's for me. I was thinking that's kind of slow. It's because it's stuck on incremental. So now it's fluid. Okay. See, just and because the thing that I didn't realize is right now, you might think that you're on a plane, flat plane with some mountains and some HDRI in the sky. No, you're actually on a planet. I don't even know if I can, like, can I do that? I make the camera speed go really high. Whoop. Don't know how to quickly get out of here. I just keep zooming and zooming and zooming. I mean, I saw somebody do this. It might not work on this particular template. Okay. Can I do that? I don't know. I don't know if that works, but it basically you're on a world, a planet, an infinite plane kind of thing. So you're not having to constantly like build the world as you go. It's kind of there, and it feels like it, and the lighting feels super rich and realistic, and the bounce light and everything like that. And I'm still getting to grips with nuanced things like cloud formations, and that's like the next level for me. Sorry, I just remembered after finishing recording the video, I found another pro and another con that I've been thinking about that I wanted to share. The other con is that, and this is hopefully just a matter of time, but people who are getting into Unreal at this stage are late to the party. Is that the right phrase that I'm looking for? We're getting in at 5.2. So what happens then is, just like when I got into Blender when it was just switched over to, was it 2.8 something when it got into the new Blender, and as we all know, even to this day, a certain amount of the results that you search for when you're looking at Blender help is from back in the old days when it was different. Slowly that's changing, but as you look for tutorials now for Unreal, you're finding old tutorials, and it changes quite a lot. Not drastically, but it's enough that you'll be like, well, where's that on mine? That doesn't work on mine, or it's broken in this version, that kind of thing. So that's a frustrating thing that we all know kind of how that goes when software is constantly changing. You get in when it's just had an amazing new feature, and all the people who've been using it for years are like, they've got their tutorials and plugins, and it's like, sorry, I don't have a clue how that works in 5.2. So hopefully that's just a matter of time before that eases out and 5.2 becomes more normalized. For example, I got this amazing plugin called Easy Fog, super cheap. And it works-ish in 5.2, but there's a few essential things that just don't work. So that's frustrating. That's another con, but like I say, maybe in a couple of months that won't be the case. And then another pro is the foliage painting is out of this world. Can I quickly show you that? Let's see. So it's really easy to do. You go into foliage here, and you you have to have some foliage, so let's just grab some from Bridge. Let's just go into 3D plants. Okay, this is a lot quicker when you actually already have some foliage. Let's just grab some ferns, and so that'll do. Can I just drag that in? Can I go straight into that? That's worth noting. Okay, Megascans, 3D plants, I think that's it. Maybe another thing. Maybe let's just try something that looks different, just to get the point across. Anything will do. That. I didn't know you could drag straight into the foliage type. Okay, that's done. So that's now in the foliage type, and you just click the ones that you want to paint with. Did that work? It looks strange. The preview looks strange. So and then you just change your brush size. And stop painting. Okay, they didn't come in too good. But I think that's just because you're not really supposed to drag straight into there. Probably better to drag into here, and then drag these static meshes into there first. So that's just something's happening here. Let's just use those three. Okay. And then the other thing to consider when you're downloading these is the quality. And I've chosen medium, and you really want to choose high quality. So yeah, sorry, I'm not making a good example of this. You're supposed to choose a high quality. At the moment they're coming in as like a bit 2D-ish. They're not bad. I think they're improving as time goes on. But like the cool thing is, so in other, like say in Blender you have geoscatter, and you have to choose an object and then paint on the object. And lately, I think in the most recent one, they've added collections. But in Unreal, you don't even have to do that. You just paint on everything. You can change the angle of the slope by clicking on these guys. You can choose multiple at once. And the ground slope angle, let's make it say 80, so that it incorporates more steep angles. And then it will go on everything. You can make it more dense. 2000. There we go. Just wow, look at that. And it'll just go on everything in the scene. There we go. Just so easy. and fast. I mean, there's so many of these, and like you could just populate. As you know, I'm sure you've seen plenty of videos on how foliage works in Unreal, and it will just keep going and keep going without getting slow. Okay, so yes, jumping back into the other video now, I just wanted to say those few things. So, man, I knew I was going to ramble on a bit, but perhaps didn't want to ramble on this much. But it's kind of I just had to get all of those points out. I feel the pros are staggering once you get into it, and you're finally in a level that has no lag. I don't know, maybe when you get it to a certain level you'll find some kind of lag, but it's hard to find it. And Unreal's just like saying, yep, just give me more and I can take it. You're not having to optimize things, you're not having to think, oh god, can I put a 4K texture in there? You just slap it in, don't have to worry about it. And those niggles, I feel like those niggles would diminish over time, whereas the issue with Blender is that it's going to always be slow. It's always going to be too slow, especially in this day and age where we have rich, detailed assets that we want to throw in our scene, and we have to constantly compromise. Okay, so yes, let me know what you think. Hit me up with questions. I'm going to, like I say, be trying to find the time to release a tutorial on how to migrate a Blender thinking concept artist into an Unreal concept artist. It's going to be like a kind of a Gumroad type thing, but it'll be cheap, and I think it might be essential because whenever somebody's asking me where do I go to find out, and I'm like, I don't know, just spend a lot of time on YouTube. Okay, so that's it for me, and I hope you got something out of this video. Let's try and move as one towards an Unreal future, and then not have to spend thousands and thousands on a new PC and 3 fucking RTX 4090 cards.